girl, calm down. So we saw a lot of biodiversity kind of die with the removal of the wolf. So the wolf is what's referred to as a keystone species, meaning that these guys are critical to their ecosystem and their environmental health. So without the wolf, that Yellowstone area of the United States kind of turned into a barren wasteland. The nesting birds left, the bees left, the small game like rodents left. The large hoofed animals, so ungulate populations, were able to overpopulate and kind of trample out grasses and cause rivers to change course. So we saw some really negative effects without the wolf in Yellowstone. Now, with all those negative effects in 1990s, we were lucky enough for Canada to allow us to trap some of their North American gray wolves and do a reintroduction project. Now, shortly after the wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone, we saw everything fall back into balance. The birds, bees, the trees, everything kind of got healthy again, and that's how we have the beautiful Yellowstone of today. So wolves are really, really important to their environment. And you guys see Lozen's letting us have a really sweet belly rub. It's really taken for granted if your dog at home lets you scratch your belly. Hi, sweet girl. It's actually a really loving thing, and it's full of trust, because when they roll over and expose their belly, they're really completely vulnerable to us. And so she's saying she trusts us. She's also a rambunctious puppy. So let's take a little walk, guys, see if we can find some for adult vaccinations.
Is everything coming through?
So as we head down this hill, guys, we're going to see two of our adult wolves from this pack. We've got Dreamer, who's laying down, and Pawnee, who just stood up. That's the alpha male. They're hanging out under this nice cedar tree. Now, cedar is really great here in Florida because it keeps these guys a little bit more bug resistant. Cedar trees are a great natural insect repellent. Come here, Dreamer, say hi. Good morning, buddy. So, Dreamer here, guys, he is 6 years old. So he is an adult wolf. He really likes an armpit scratch. He's kind of a silly boy. And Lozen's back over here to say hi. But something I want to point out while we've got Dreamer standing here, I want you guys to look at his paws. Do you see how big those feet are? Those paws are really, really special for wolves. So these guys are actually web-footed. So they've got, hi buddy. These guys have webbed paws, and they're really adapted swimmers. Wolves have been documented to swim 8 or 9 miles without stopping, so it's really a useful tactic. We also just got joined by Geronimo. He is another 9-month-old puppy here at Seacrest Wolf Preserve, and you can see he's just a little goofy. So, fun facts about the wolf pup. So wolf pups from the age of about, thank you, Mommy loves you, from about 6 months to about 10 months hit what's called a rapid growth period. And so rapid growth is hugely important because these guys are going to double, if not triple, in size during the rapid growth period. So when Geronimo started rapid growth, he weighed about 40 pounds. Right now he weighs about 85. So a big weight change. And he's still got about another month to grow in rapid growth. So he'll probably put on another 20 pounds in the next month. And what this does is it allows the pups to get big enough that during winter, they can keep up with their pack and the environment becomes a little harsher, and they need to, help with the hunting and things like that. Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Okay. We felt like we lost you for a minute. We had kind of a bad connection. We got that nice little, we're in the boondocks, guys. We got the nice little letting us know that we might not have the best connection.
No worries. Everything has been going smoothly, and we can see you very well.
Awesome. We always have to live with the fact out here that there may or may not be good service. Dreamer, where are you going? So, does anybody have any questions so far about wolves? Because I can tell you about them all day, but I love a good question. So, North American gray wolves, like the timber wolf, they can actually actually be wide varieties as far as their coat color. So these guys can be a varying shade from a pure white to a solid black, and every shade of gray and brown in the middle. Now, these grizzly colors, like we said in here with Geronimo, Dreamer, and Lozin, they are your more common colors for the North American gray wolf. And the reason that is because it's a really good camouflage color. You can tell Lozin laying right there behind those leaves, and Geronimo right here. They're actually blended in pretty well. If you didn't know they were there, you might miss them. And so that allows them to be more effective hunters. Now, they're also got what's called a dual coat, meaning they've got really, really thick fur. And that's going to serve to keep them much warmer in their native environment, where it can be actually pretty cold. But ironically enough, it does help them here in Florida as well, as it serves as great insulation. And insulation, like you put in your house, or a Yeti cup, that's going to keep it warmer or cooler depending on your environmental needs. Do you have an itchy? Stop. You have a hot spot. And so, fun fact, this little place that Geronimo's chewing is what's called a hot spot. Your dogs at home probably get them, so they get a little skin irritation, and then they start chewing on them, and they make them into a mess, and they have to have some antibiotics to treat them. Yep. You get to go see the vet. You get to go see the vet. So just like your dogs at home, these guys are going to have some health issues and some medical things. So these guys are going to get yearly vaccinations, just like your domesticated dogs. So they're going to get the different cargo vaccines, rabies vaccines, leptospirosis vaccines, as well as Bordetella to help keep them healthy. They're going to get annual blood works, and they're also going to get monthly general dewormers and good heartworm medication to keep them nice and healthy here in Florida. Vet care is usually important to us. We like to make sure all of our animals are feeling their best all the time. Stop chewing yourself. So hot spots are kind of like if you get in poison ivy. It's going to be super itchy and aggravating, so he's going to want to mess with it. We're going to try to distract him with a belly rub and see if he'll stop messing with it.
Lindsey?
Yeah.
A question came through, and they said, how many wolves are in a pack, and how does the hierarchy work?
So, wolf packs can actually be very varied in size. It only takes 2 wolves to actually make a pack, and that would generally be an alpha male and an alpha female, and they would grow a pack. Now, here at Seacrest, the packs can be very varied as far as sizes. We have packs of 5, packs of 2. The average pack size that you're going to find in the wild is going to be about 7 to 11 wolves. Now, right now, the largest documented pack is Cougar Creek out towards Yellowstone, and they've got 21 wolves. Now, the largest wolf pack ever documented was in Yellowstone as well. It was the Druid pack, and the Druid pack was 44 wolves strong. Now, you asked about hierarchy as well. So hierarchy is very misconceived in wolf population. So we all hear about the alphas. So alpha male and alpha female in a wolf pack are generally going to be your breeding or mating pair. And they are in charge. They're going to be making the big decisions for the packs. But don't let that fool you. They're not going to always be the biggest, strongest wolves. Oftentimes, they're going to be the wisest wolves who are the best leaders and who make decisions that are best for everybody within their pack. Now, the pack also generally has a beta pair. They're kind of second in command, and their job is to kind of make sure that everybody is following the rules and regulations of the territory. Everyone has a misconception that being an omega is a bad thing, but omega actually just means general population in a wolf pack. So I like to say that being an omega isn't bad, because when you're an omega and something goes wrong, you don't have to be the one to fix it. Everybody else has to figure out how to fix it. So there's really not a bad spot to be in a wolf pack. Wolf packs are very smart, and they divide their labor very brilliantly. So the alpha pair, they don't care who leads the hunt. They just want to make sure their entire pack is fed. So if there is a female wolf who is an omega, but she's the best hunter in the pack, she's going to lead the hunt because they care that the wolves eat. The alpha doesn't always eat first. The wolf who's the hungriest is going to eat first. So wolves are really caring to each other, and they're really going to take good care of each other regardless of their hierarchy within the pack.
So then, relative to what they eat, we have a few questions about what do their diets mainly consist of?
Sure. So in the wild, wolves are very feast and famine creatures, meaning wolves can go about 2 to 3 weeks without eating anything. Now, when they do eat, they're going to gorge themselves. So these guys can eat about 25 pounds of meat in a single sitting each. Now, in the wild, they're obligate carnivores, and they're mostly going to be hunting elk and bison and large game along those lines. Here at Seacrest, they're pretty spoiled. So our wolves here at Seacrest eat by hand 3 times a week, so Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We go through about 3,000 to 5,000 pounds of meat a week, and it's going to consist of chicken, beef, pork, steak, venison, bison, duck, turkey, lamb, fish of all varieties, lobster tails, scallops. So here at Seacrest, they eat a very diverse diet of meat, but don't let that fool you. They're really, really picky. So say you offer Geronimo, who was just laying here, chicken, and that's not what he wants. He's going to take his little nose, he's going to punch it back at you to tell you, no thank you, he's not in the mood for chicken, he wants steak. And so you're going to have to play the game of what does he want to eat. And once you find what he wants to eat, he's probably going to change his mind. So, squirrels here at Seacrest, but in the wild, they've got a little bit more of a harshness, trying to find prey. So that scavenger lifestyle doesn't really work for a wolf. But they're oftentimes going to cache or bury their leftovers into the ground so that they can go back for them later. Because hunting as a wolf is not always easy, and it can be rather dangerous. And so wolves are nocturnal species, so we're kind of waking them up from their morning siestas. And as you can see, Logan's pretty cute here under this tree. He says, I like a good nap. Does anyone want to take a nap? Hey, baby. So this licking around my face that she and all the other wolves are doing, it's called a muzzle greeting. So in wolf society, that licking and kissing around the snout of other wolves or around the nose of people, that is really their way of saying hello. So it's kind of like us waving or something like that. It's a very loving greeting, but sometimes it can be a little much.
Another question came in from a 4th grade central school. They asked if they get hot in Florida.
So these guys are really, really well adapted to just about any kind of temperature. Now, they are generally a cold weather northern species, meaning that they are going to prefer the colder weather. But that dual coat that I mentioned earlier is going to really do a good job at keeping them warmer or cooler depending on environmental needs. Now, also, wolves have a really unique special gland in their paw pads. It's a regulation gland. So on a hot summer's day, all a wolf needs to do to cool off is submerge their paws into some water. And what that's going to do is that gland is going to absorb the cool, and it's going to help regulate their body temperatures quicker than panting would. And also, our wolves here at Seacrest, a majority of them were born here at Seacrest, so they're a little bit more adapted to the heat. They still prefer the cooler weather. The wolf's favorite day around here is cold and rainy.
And then we have another question from Gerardo Espinoza asking what threats do wolves face in the wild and how are conservation efforts helping them?
So, wolves right now are really, they're not having a good time. So humans are responsible for roughly 92% of all wolf deaths. Now, keep in mind that wolves don't reach adulthood until about 3 years of age. So it would be kind of like one of us turning 18. And that would be the average life expectancy of a wild wolf right now. It's about 3 years of age. So that would be like you walking out of your front door when you turn 18, excited to live in the world and meeting a hunter. That's what's happening to a lot of wolves. Now, in Yellowstone areas where they're protected from us humans, they're averaging life expectancy about 7 to 9 years of age, 9 being a really old wolf. And that's because they're protected within the borders of Yellowstone. However, when they cross those invisible boundaries, they are able to be hunted and shot just like other wolves. Now, federal judges recently revoked protection for wolves of the Rockies, so Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and unfortunately wolves in those areas are being shot and killed in the hundreds. As far as conservation efforts, facilities like ours and other facilities are constantly working to try to be a voice for these animals and make people understand that they're not the big bad wolves. They don't kill livestock. They don't huff and puff and blow little pigs' houses down or eat grandma and steal her identity. But the biggest thing in conservation right now that's helping the efforts is education, teaching people about wolves. And we're trying to break years of generational hatred. So you've got to remember that it doesn't matter how much you tell people. The ranchers out towards the west do still believe that wolves kill cattle. Now, the federal government, USDA, reports less than 0.02% of any livestock death to a wolf. But that doesn't mean those people want to listen to that. So the biggest thing is education and teaching the public what a wolf really is and how they want to live. But conservation efforts right now are we're in a stalemate with a lot of politicians. So it's not being an easy time for wolves right now.
We got another question from the chat, and it was from Sycamore Trails in 4th grade. They asked, can people visit the sanctuary? If so, can they interact with the wolves like you are?
So Seacrest Wolf Preserve is an interactive facility. So all the wolves that you've met today through our chat, they are some of our educational ambassadors. So we are open for visitors by reservation. We offer a couple of different types of interactive tours, but people are able to come visit Seacrest. They are able to get hands-on with these guys and to learn while they're touching and getting to be part of the pack. So yes, we are open to the public.
And then we have a question from 3rd grade students near us in Streamwood, Illinois. They asked, how do they hide from predators?
So wolves are actually the apex predator of their environment. So they're generally rather high on the food chain top. So they're not hiding from a lot of predators. The predator that the wolf has to hide from is going to be us, humans. And these guys have some remarkable senses. So it's documented that a wolf can see for about a mile away. They can smell for about 2 to 3 miles and hear for over 8. So their best tactic to stay alive is just to avoid humans, and they're going to do everything in their power to do that. But they're going to utilize those fantastic senses to stay away from us. But outside of us, they're generally fairly high on the food chain. They will occasionally have some encounters of negative variety with grizzly bears, but those are few and far between.
So you mentioned that they were apex predators. So we had another question. How does this contribute to their ecosystem balance?
So oftentimes apex predators are going to be your keystone species within your environment. And the reason that is because those apex predators are going to oftentimes be the regulatory factor. So populations like elk and bison, they will just continue to reproduce. And wolves are going to keep their numbers at a stable population for their environment. Wolves also tend to pick off the sick and the weak within herds, and they do that, which allows the populations to become healthier because diseases like chronic wasting disease are taken out before they can become an infectious nightmare or pandemic.
The 4th graders from Sycamore Trails asked again, can an alpha wolf kick another wolf out of the pack? And what happens to those wolves that are kicked out?
So wolves can be kicked out of their packs, and it can be done by an alpha male. However, to get kicked out of your pack, you have to really become a nuisance to the pack. The pack is a big family just like ours, and so think about the reasons that a family member would be kicked out of your family. They are no longer safe to be around your family, or they've done something that's really, broken your trust. And wolves are similar in that regard. They're not going to kick each other out just because they have a bad day or get mad at each other. So generally when wolves are kicked out of packs for those really bad reasons, it's going to generally be a situation where they become what's referred to as a furter wolf. and they have left their pack or been kicked out of their pack, and their whole goal is to find an unrelated wolf of the opposite gender and to start a new pack, because wolves are highly social animals, and these guys actually will not thrive or live for very long by themselves. They'll mourn themselves to death and die of broken hearts if they're alone for too long. So the whole idea of a lone wolf is actually a myth, and is scientifically referred to as a disperser wolf, or a wolf that's looking for companionship.
So in regards to that, we had another question asked, what is a wolf's lifespan?
So in the wild, wolves are lucky to make it to the age of 3 years, which is cognitive adulthood. Yeah. In places like Yellowstone, they average about 7 to 9 years, and that's because they're protected from humans. In captive situations, most facilities will report average lifespan of about 12 to 13, so similar to a large breed dog. Right now here at Seacrest, our average life expectancy is sitting right about 17 years. We're very, very proud of that. We've actually had several wolves make it to 21 years of age, so we're very proud. Isn't he so cute when he sleeps? I mean, isn't he just adorable? It almost makes you forget that he's a crazy puppy when he's awake.
In regards to that, how large do wolves grow? How tall are they when they stand on their hind legs? This was asked by Laurel Hill.
So, the North American gray wolf, so the type of wolf that we're in with, the average weight of a male is going to range from about 100 to 150 pounds. Females are a little smaller at about 75 to 110 pounds. Now, we've had wolves here at Seacrest get well over 180 pounds, and we've had some that were over 7 foot tall when they stood up on their back legs. Dreamer, who we met earlier, he's probably about 6.5 feet when he stands up on his back legs. He's well taller than me, and we've got a couple of employees who are that height, but he's taller than they are.
So in regards to that, they obviously have similar traits. So somebody was wondering how many species of wolves they are, and if there's anything that you know of that sticks out from one species to another of wolves.
So there are going to be a handful of species of wolves from Canis lupus to Canis rufus, the gray wolf, the red wolf, and then there's going to be a ton of subspecies within those species categories. So you have Canis lupus arcticus, which is the Arctic wolf, and several other species. So each continent does have its own wolf populations, from the Ethiopian wolf to Africa, all the way over to here, where we have the gray wolf and the Mexican gray, as well as the Arctic and the red wolf. The biggest thing that's going to stick out from species to species is generally going to be size and some characteristics. So most of the wolves are going to be similar in size to the gray wolf. However, the red wolf, or Canis rufus, is significantly smaller. They average no more than about 90 pounds. And then you've got the Eurasian gray. So the Eurasian gray over in Asia can top out at about 250 pounds. So there are tons of species. I honestly cannot give you a full count as of right now because that's currently under review, as there are a handful of populations that are being re-diversed into subspecies.
Laurel Hill asked again, do wolves eat more in the winter, or do they store food for winter?
So wolves don't really store food. Occasionally they'll do a behavior where they catch their leftovers or bury them. They're generally going to go back and eat them within about a 24-hour period so that they're still safe to eat. Wolves are going to eat the same amount of food generally from winter through summer. It's going to be based on when they've got food available. Wolves are going to eat when they have the opportunity to eat. And generally it's going to be after one of those long drawn-out hunts where they've expended tons of energy, so they've got to eat as much as they can as quickly as they can. So I don't really notice them eating more in the winter, more during the summer. They eat a lot throughout the year.
So we have a collective amount of questions, basically just about how do wolves attack, their formation? Do they ever attack each other? I mean, I know you highlighted this in regards to kicking out wolves. While it is rare, what is your thoughts about just everything kind of in that regard?
So when it comes to their hunting strategies, wolves are very strategic. They're oftentimes, because the females are a little bit faster and leaner, they're oftentimes going to let the females do a lot of the chase down. Female wolves are very fast. Wolves can run at speeds of about 43 miles per hour, but the really fantastically amusing thing about the wolf is they're an endurance species. So these guys can maintain speeds of over 30 miles per hour for over 20 miles. So they're going to wear down their prey. And when wolves get tired, they'll splinter off and another wolf from the pack will join in the chase. And so that's going to be kind of how they run a hunt. They're very strategic. They've picked out one particular animal, and that's the animal they're taking down. They're not going to change. They're not opportunistic. There is a particular reason why they have selected this one elk or this one bison. Now, when it comes to fighting with other packs, a lot of times it's really just going to be situational dependency. Wolves really like to run on a three-strike-you're-out method when it comes to other packs or lone wolves within their territory. They don't really like to kill any other wolves. They don't see it as a benefit to their population. So the first time that you get in someone's territory that you shouldn't be in, oftentimes they're just going to make sure you understand that it's their territory and you need to leave. The next go-round, oftentimes, if you step back into the territory, they've told you once, they're going to make sure you really understand this time that you have no business being there. Now, the third time you get caught somewhere you're not supposed to be, you're probably going to learn a pretty hard lesson. Because now you've become a nuisance to that pack and you need to go. So, when it comes to attacking each other, wolves would really rather avoid it. They see no purpose in hurting each other or possibly getting themselves or their packs hurt. They're generally only going to fight with each other when it really is necessary.
So we got two different comments on reproduction, and they asked how many wolves are in your preserve, how many wolves are in a litter, and how much does the average wolf reproduce, and how many babies will they have in a litter?
Okay, so we have 26 wolves here at Seacrest at the moment. That's our population. We also have our foxes, our skunks, our raccoons, our coyotes, and things like that. But 26 wolves. We have North American gray wolves, we have Arctic wolves, and we have British Columbian wolves here at Seacrest. Now, as far as reproduction, wolves only go into heat or estrus once a year. So there's only one time of the year where the females can become pregnant. And we're actually right in that time right now. So the estrus cycle or heat cycle generally starts around the latter part of January. They peak about Valentine's Day because wolves are romantics. And then they come out of season about the start of March. Now they're going to carry, or their gestation period is about 63 days before the puppies will be born. Average litter sizes are about 3 to 6 wolf pups per litter. Now, these guys are canines, so they could have one wolf pup in a litter, they could have 12. But 3 to 6 is pretty average.
Alright, we have from Glenbrook Elementary again, this time the 4th grade class. They asked, do wolves like swimming?
Oh yes, wolves love swimming. So each one of our enclosures does have a pond so that the wolves are able to swim and fish at their leisure. There is actually a group of wolves, or a pack of wolves out in the Pacific, that they live on an island. But to do their hunting or to feed themselves, they have to swim about 7 miles to the mainland. So wolves really, really enjoy the water. It's not uncommon to find them just playing in the water, swimming, or fishing on any given day. They enjoy the water a lot. And their coats are really designed for it. So they've got those thick dual coats, but it's also got this really natural wool in it that keeps them pretty dry. So even when they're swimming, they don't really feel that wet.
Alright, we have another question from 3rd grade students in Glenbrook Elementary. They asked, what do they do if they get separated from their pack? Is there a certain method or a certain thing that they usually try and do to find their pack again?
So there are a couple of different ways wolves can find their packs. A lot of packs have what's called a rendezvous site predetermined in their territory. So an area that they're going to go if they get separated to meet up with each other. But a lot of times if it's a younger wolf, there's a howling, specific howl that they're going to utilize to try to locate each other. So that verbal communication will come into play. Or they're going to head to the rendezvous site. It's just going to depend on what the pack has chosen.
You're sleepy boy.
Hello, Mo.
She's Ernie Mo. Hi. Scratchy, scratchy.
He says he partied too hard last night. He's tired.
So we have a question asking, why do wolves howl?
So wolves are going to be mostly nonverbal communicators, meaning that these guys are often going to use their body language to show what they're communicating to each other. But howling is going to be their most utilized and most iconic verbal communication tool. They're oftentimes using a howl for a roll call or a rally. They're trying to either bring their pack back together or they're trying to figure out where everyone is so that they can better make a plan. Oftentimes it'll also be used to communicate something exciting like a birth of a litter of puppies, or even to communicate something sad like a death of a wolf. Outside of howling, they do make other vocalizations. There's a noise called a chuff that sounds very similar to a dog barking, but they're only going to use that noise when they're trying to depict aggression. They also do little whimpers and whines and grunts like you just heard Geronimo do. But since we're talking about howling, do we want to see if maybe we could get these guys to howl with us?
Yes, that would be great.
Alright, we're going to move spot. Geronimo's too sleepy. We'll go see if this Lowe's wants to give us a howl. No!
To the woods we go.
Baby.
I think we lost your audio. The video is getting a little bit glitchy.
You lost?
Oh, I think you're okay. Okay.
Are you good?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
We think that the microphone might be cutting out because whenever they howl, we actually can't hear it, but we can hear everything else.
She said when they howl, they can't hear it. It keeps cutting out. Aww. And they're just learning to howl.
Oh, wait. Okay. Yeah.
That one?
Any better with that one?
No, sorry. I don't know.
I think we did it last time.
Okay, I think we can pretend. I think hopefully.
Thank you so much, though.
Dan, you just have to be in to get your head.
Yeah. Okay, so going back, or like stepping aside from the wolves, we did have a few questions about how you got into your career and what are your like daily roles being at the conservation center.
So my background is actually in vet medicine. So that's where all my background comes from. And I actually ended up at Seacrest pretty much by a happy accident. So I came here back in 2018 as a guest after we moved to Florida. And I just fell in love with the place and never left. These days I am the president licensee, meaning I hold all the wildlife permits. So I am responsible for these guys. And my daily jobs are anything from taking care of them, making sure they're well fed, maintaining their enclosures, their habitats, taking calls from people, educating the public. There's never a lack of stuff to do around here. It's a very busy place, and it's not a 9 to 5 job. You never know what the day's going to hold or when you're going to leave, but it's really worth it. Working with these guys is something I wanted to do since I was a little girl, and I am blessed to get to do it every day.
Sycamore Trails asked if you have a certain favorite wolf or like a species in any sort of way.
There's like your favorite wolf at the preserve.
So that is a super hard question. And the reason that's so hard is the running joke at Seacrest is you don't get to pick your wolf. your wolf picks you. Just like people, wolf personalities are going to kind of change per wolf. So everyone's a little different. Everyone has things they like and things they don't like. And my best friend who is a wolf, his name is Pawnee. You guys have seen him through here. He's an alpha male, so he's pretty stoic, which means he doesn't oftentimes show a lot of outward affection. He's actually right there behind the net. So we'll see if she can get some pictures of him. But Pawnee's the 7-year-old North American gray male. And he and I are very bonded. I can't go anywhere at the preserve that Pawnee doesn't follow me to some regard. He's kind of like having a bodyguard. You always know you're well taken care of. So, if you ask me who my baby is, that's what I'm going to tell you. But Geronimo, who you guys saw sleeping in the den, I'm pretty partial to him, but granted, I raised him, so I'm kind of his mommy. Pawnee.
So there goes Glenbrook asked if they have any similar characteristics to dogs at all.
So genetically, all wolves and all of our dogs, from our smallest Chihuahua to our biggest Great Dane, are only 2% difference in their DNA component. So you are going to find a lot of similarities, a lot of behavioral mannerisms that are the same, so the way they wag their tails, some of the noises they make. But there are as many differences as there are similarities. So there are things that are the same, and a lot of visitors that come to see us really enjoy seeing those similarities between the dogs and the wolves. But there are a lot of things that are vastly different too.
We just have a few questions about, like, how do you determine if they are male or female, and as well as, like, their age?
The majority of the Seacrest wolves have been born here. So I've worked with them since they were very young puppies. So a lot of them, I even know their birthdays. Dreamer's birthday is April the 1st. Momo's birthday is May 1st. Pawnee over there, he's April 17th. So a lot of these guys I've been with since birth, so I can tell you their birthdays, so that's how old I know that they are. And in the wild, if you came across a wolf that you needed to determine age of, there's certain characteristics you look for in their teeth, just like you would a domesticated dog. As far as their gender, well, they've got certain parts.
Someone by the name of Clara asked if wolves can climb up, like, just climb in general, or like up some like walls maybe, or something like that.
So, Annette, if you'll turn around and show them this structure. So this structure right here that Annette's showing you, the wolves can definitely climb up that structure. They're going to do a combination of jumping and running up the logs. But can they climb just a standard tree? Absolutely not. But these guys have some pretty capable jumping habits. These guys can jump about 12 feet. So they can get pretty high. But yeah, they're going to oftentimes kind of run up this log. I don't do it nearly as gracefully as they do. But they're going to scamper up that to get to the top. They're not going to do like a bear and grab this tree and climb up it.
Alright, so then, Sycamore Trails asks, do wolves have runts in their litter? If so, do the runts often survive? And if so, would it be smaller than the other wolves in the pack?
So, runts and litters do happen with wolves, but it's not necessarily what you think it's going to be. So a lot of times the runs actually grow into be rather large wolves. No wolf pup in the wild has a great survival chance. If a mom has a litter of 6 in the wild, she's lucky if 2 of it make it to 1-year-old. So as far as runts, the perfect situation here at Seacrest was Dreamer and Ayasha. Dreamer was born weighing almost 3 pounds. Now keep in mind the average wolf pup weighs less than a pound at birth. And Ayasha barely weighed half a pound. Ayasha was definitely that litter's runt. But these days, she's the alpha female of her pack, and she's a little stick of dynamite. So, size in the canine community, whether it's wolves or our domesticated dogs, they don't see size the same way we see size. The biggest wolf is not always in charge. Oftentimes, some of the smaller wolves tend to be your better fighters and your better defenders. So, size doesn't mean, in wolf world, what we think it means. They don't care. Their personality is what dictates where they stand.
Also, in regards to that question, Laurel Hill asked, what are wolves like when they are born, and what do pups eat when they're first born?
So when pups are first born, these guys are mammals, so they are going to drink mom's milk. Now, oftentimes, other female wolves within the pack will go through what's called a false pregnancy, so that she'll produce milk and be able to help the mama wolf nurse the babies. About 3 weeks old, they get their first taste of meat, which is oftentimes going to be regurgitated or kind of thrown back up by one of the adult wolves so that the babies can start to process that. As far as what they're like, if you've ever kind of been around a puppy, so like you've ever gotten a puppy, very similar behaviors. They go through these little spells and spurts of energy where they get the zoomies and they want to play, and then they'll sleep for a couple of hours. And as they get older, the sleeping dies down and the energy gets higher. At about 9 months old, Geronimo and them, they play hard all the time because play is really important to teach life skills for wolves. They're going to learn how to hunt. They're going to learn how to work with each other and be a pack. So play, really important. All wolves play. It doesn't matter if you're the big, strong alpha male. If one of the puppies wants to play with you, you're going to play because it's what teaches that baby. So wolf pups are adorable. They're a lot of work though. They wear you out. Bottle feedings at 2 a.m. get really tiring.
So then we had 2 questions basically about like your sanctuary. Was how do you know which wolf is who, and then how do you choose the names of the wolves?
So just like people, all of the wolves have certain characteristics that make them look different. So once you work with them for a while, they don't look the same to you. So they're pretty easy to tell apart. Dreamer and Fawny are 2 that people have the hardest time telling apart, and it's pretty easy for me. Dreamer kind of walks like a silly boy. He's kind of the class clown. And then Fawny's a lot more stoic and kind of walks with a purpose. As far as names, really just depends. We oftentimes like to go with a theme for every litter. So like we had a year where we had a litter of boys that were Mesa, Pawnee, and Apaches. They're named after Indian tribes. We had a year where we were being patriotic. So we had America and freedom and liberty. So we've got Lozen and Geronimo, which if you've ever read about Geronimo, you may know that his warrior sister's name was Lozen. So we like to pick a theme, and we try to match their names to their personality when they're young.
Alright, the name of Sarah Ryan asked, what is the longest wolf that what is the longest that a wolf has lived that you have known?
So here at Seacrest 21 was our longest living wolf. The world record right now is about 23 and 2 months.
And then we had another question from 4th graders at Gunbrook. Are wolves blind when they are first born?
So wolves aren't necessarily blind when they're first born, but their eyes are closed. They don't have the ability to open their eyes when they're first born. So the cornea and retina and everything under there is still kind of forming. So they don't open their eyes for the first time until they're about 10 days old.
Alright, and Sycamore Trails wants to know if you have seen wolves in your preserve like maybe attack each other or like seem like kind of harmful towards each other, and if so, what would you do if you saw that happening?
So wolves are big family units. A pack is a big family. And just like your family at home, sometimes you're going to get in fights with your brother or your sister. And sometimes your parents have to step in and separate. So I've had to be the parent a few times, and I've had to step in and separate a situation that could have ended badly. But for the most part, when they get into little disputes, it is going to be just that. It's going to be a little bit of a bickering match, and then they're going to kind of go different ways, cool off, and come back together. But there are situations where we've had to step in and be the parents and do a little disciplining and make sure they understand that they can't do that.
And then we have a question from Camden where they ask, are all species of wolves endangered?
Hang on, guys. I'm trying to get in here to sing a little combo dreamer. Hey, baby. So, no, not all species of wolves are endangered. Right now in the United States, the gray wolf, so what Dreamer is considered a stable population, even though I don't personally agree with that. But the red wolf and the Mexican gray wolf within the United States are critically endangered, and reintroduction projects are being worked on with those animals.
Some fourth graders in Glenbrook ask, how good is their sense of smell?
These guys can smell for up to 3 miles away. They've got more than 2 million olfactory cells in their noses, which makes the bloodhound's nose look kind of pathetic.
Alright, and then these two questions are kind of relative to each other. Is how do wolves find their territory, and how do wild wolves hunt?
So wild wolves are going to find their territories. Generally, they're going to be looking for a space that's not inhabited by another wolf pack that has security, shelter, and food sourcing. So a lot of times it's the luck of a draw, but they will occasionally fight over territory, but that's few and far between. And then hunting, like I said earlier, is going to be oftentimes done as one big group unit working together, everybody taking off the slack if someone gets tired, and then they're specifically picking out one particular animal to take down for their prey, and there's a reason why they're taking down that animal. It's either sick or injured. They're not just picking the healthiest deer in the herd.
All right. Sycamore Trails. Some fourth graders are asking, would wolves help another wolf from a different pack if it's injured? I know you talk a lot about how they're in units, and that's just a great question, I believe, because since they're not in the same unit, what will happen if they see like another wolf that is injured, and maybe they'll feel compassion at all?
So, fun fact about wolves. These guys will actually adopt any wolf under the age of 2 years into their pack. They're going to raise it just like their own and take care of it just like their own. Now, if they find an adult wolf within their pack that's maybe injured, they're probably going to just try to leave it alone. They don't want to be the reason it dies, but they also don't always have the resources to take care of it. But there are documented accounts in the wild of another pack having an injured animal in the territory, and the wolf actually supplying it with food and making sure it was safe enough to get healthy and leave in their territory. These guys really are better at being compassionate than humans have ever thought about being. They understand that their species needs every single member to survive, and they're not looking to be the reason why they don't survive.
Yeah, well, we would just like to mention that we have a few questions in the chat in regards to human involvement with wolves and like how that relationship is. But I think you highlighted it pretty well about the rumors and just like conspiracies based off of how wolves are, like old stories. Did you have any comments in regards to that and like the true behavior of wolves and how you kind of combat those theories?
So, fun little tidbit of information. There are only 2 documented wolf attacks in the United States in the last 150 years. Both of those attacks were at the same location at an illegal garbage dump, where people were illegally disposing of animal carcasses and other waste remains like that. So both of those are constituted as provoked attacks, meaning that the people did something not so smart to have the negative impact of the wolf. So there are no cases where a wolf just purposely decided that they wanted to go after a human with no reason. These guys in Yellowstone will be documented completely avoiding people. They have those fantastic senses, and so they know where we are, and they also are wise enough to know that we need danger, and they want to avoid us at all costs. There was a study in Yellowstone in the late 1990s, which was to show that they didn't really hunt people or cattle. They corralled about 100 head of cattle into a very rickety old pen in Yellowstone's Druid Pack's territory. The wolves chose to abandon their territory to avoid the interaction of the humans and the cattle. Wolves really don't want anything to do with us in the wild. They would rather us just stay away from them, and they'd stay away from us.
I'm gonna get a shot of Dreamer right here. Dreamer.
Get out.
Hey, come here. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. Dreamer. Okay.
Might take a minute to get out from under the tree.
we have a couple of questions talking about like domestication and if we could have one as a pet at all.
Wolves are not meant to be pets, guys. I can't stress that enough. I know that they look incredibly friendly and sweet and dog-like here at Seacrest behind me. And they are very loving and caring animals, but they were not meant to be pets no more than a grizzly bear was meant to be a pet. These guys are wild animals that need space to run. They have desires, and they need a pack-like setting. They're just not meant to be in your house. I'm sorry, they're just not. There are a lot of people who try to breed the wolf dogs and the wolf dog hybrids. We get about 60 calls a week of those animals that need rescue. Stick to your domesticated dog breeds. Don't try to make a wild animal a pet. It's not going to end well for you or the animal.
Alright, so we'll probably just wrap up with 2 more questions. They asked, like, how many wolves are in the U.S.?
Sorry. Sorry about that. What was the question? The camera person got wolf love.
They asked, like, how many wolves are in the U.S.? And then another question, how many wolves do you have at your sanctuary?
So, 26 wolves here at Seacrest. Now, as far as numbers in the U.S., I don't have a count on that at the moment. It is the time of year where breeding season occurs, and so they'll do a recount for genetic populations in about May. So I can have you a more accurate number in May, so if you want to check back with me in May, I'm happy to give you that number.
Alright, and Glenbrook, some 4th graders want to know if wolf packs will attack each other over like territory, or will they ever like battle for some sort of like territory or something like that?
So wolf packs can have disputes and will fight with each other, but only when it is their absolute last resort. They will only fight with each other when there has been no availability to find a better solution.
And then we were just wondering if you had like a mic or headphones or anything, and if you wanted to maybe try getting the wolves to howl again.
So I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't have a mic or a headphones with me. Bringing your cell phone in here with the curious nature of the wolves can be a little hazardous, as these guys are really good pickpockets. They'll take anything away from you that they can get. That one especially, he is a master of thievery. I don't carry those kind of things with me, but I will tell you guys, if you go to either our Facebook page or our TikTok page or our Instagram or even our website, you can find plenty of videos of the wolves howling. It's one of our favorite things to share with people.
So overall, those are basically all the questions we have that we've gotten in the chat. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say or sum up your presentation today?
The biggest thing that I want you guys to leave this conversation understanding is that wolves are absolutely beautiful, both inside and out. These guys are not animals that we need to fear in the wild, but we need to protect and understand. So if any of this presentation today interests you, I encourage you to take time and read about wolves, learn about wolves, watch documentaries about wolves, because the best tool that we have to help save this beautiful Native American species is education. Talk to your friends. Tell your friends if you like wolves. Share the information. So that's the only way that generations after us are going to get to enjoy these guys in the wild.
Alright, well that pretty much wraps up this presentation, I believe. And I just want to thank you so much for this wonderful presentation and answering all these questions that all these more little kids had, and also newer generations, and just everything in general was just great. And we thank you so much for it.
Yep. And coming from the Midwest, we have a lot of people here, and we just want to say enjoy your weather in Florida, and yeah, thank you.
We appreciate you guys, and we hope to see you next year. I think this is our 4th year out here for this presentation, so we hope next year that you'll invite us back and we can show some more wolves.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much for another great year.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey.
Bye, guys.